Are you ready to think about the riding and the way he goes? When's the last time you really thought about the halt to walk transition? We're first going to look at carry go forward. At its most basic, it's the first transition, halt to walk. And then later comes walk to trot, trot to canter, halt to trot, halt to canter, all of those this list. When is the last time you assessed how he walks off from the mounting block? This halt walk transition is our start, but it's usually not considered, rarely practiced, rarely discussed. Yet how we do the smallest thing is how we do the big things, or faithful over a few things, to make us ruler of many. This isn't religion, but we need to be disciplined. Carry and go must exist up front. You can't manufacture this. Nobody can. The idea must be in the mind of the horse, so it becomes how he goes. This is the target, the aim, the outcome we want, whether it's a 2-second half halt, 2 minutes tuning, or a 2-year basic training program. Remember the aim? We started here. The rider trainer has achieved his aim and fully trained his horse, and both forces of the hindquarters, the propulsive force and the carrying power, bound by elasticity, are fully developed when he can balance and use both these forces exactly. So, we're talking about carry go forwards, and look what we have here. Carrying and going. What do we do? And how do we do it? How do we teach the horse to govern his own momentum by carrying while he follows our decisions? We need to use some principles. We can even call them doctrines. Here's a doctrine. Predictable, consistent routine leads to consequent, consecutive education, which the fruit of which is expression and liberty being automatic. Consistency has consequence. Let's look at what happens in a simple carrying and going transition. Look up here in the upper right. See this list? This technical stuff has to go on. It looks like a lot to think about, but if you wrote out exactly what to do to tie a shoelace, that would be a much more complicated list. Soon, this list will be automatic, and in the next class, we're going to dive into it. I think it'll be the hardest thing we face. To prepare, I'm going to give you your first $1 million riding lesson. It's right here in this list, the open seat. Without this function, your riding will never be great. With it, your riding can be great. There's a PDF in the resource with the exact description verbatim from Gymnasium. Right now, I'm going to read it to you, and you'll see some illustrations while I read it. Page 34 and 35 from Gymnasium by Steinbrecht. We will now discuss the supporting aid of the open seat. According to the principle that any body gains in circumference the more it's shortened by compression, the horse, as mentioned before, must broaden his rib cage and flanks when moving in collection, so as not to interfere with such expansion, but to enhance it as much as possible. The rider must intentionally open his thighs and knees when collecting the horse in movements that require considerable lowering and weighing of the hindquarters. That is, he must move his legs away from the horse, so that no pressure from these limbs, except their natural weight, would interfere with the desired lowering and broadening. The main requirement for this supporting aid is that the legs remain in a flat position, so that the hips always retain their proper position upon the plumb line. Unfortunately, weak riders often demonstrate the wrong seat. The correct open seat, however, is a fine aid which only requires balance. For this reason, the open seat has an extraordinary effect. The horse, no longer hampered by any hard contact with the rider's tight thighs, will feel almost as if in a state of freedom and will therefore work with such lightness and enjoyment as if left to play in the paddock at will. The more the horse develops his skill in lowering his hindquarters to carry the weight, the less the rider will be forced to artificially maintain his open seat. The horse's strides become steadily softer. The collected horse, with his broadened flanks, will fill the rider's open legs in such a way that they're held in the open position and take up a soft contact with the horses. So now you know about the open seat. It's part of good riding. We're going to keep seeing this. It really is a $1 million riding lesson. And we're almost done.